This is the Wise Guy Radio Show, a podcast dedicated to educating and inspiring through conversations with today's top talents in the world of glass. We will be dissecting their journeys in hopes to deliver actionable content that you, the artist, can start implementing now, helping you grow not only as a creative spirit, but also a successful artistic entrepreneur. With a little organization, relationship building, and your artistic ability, you can obtain greatness. Climb aboard, whether an artist, retail owner, or enthusiast. We have a ton of fun in store for you. Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
You're listening to the Wise Guy Radio Show.
This episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by Mountain Glass Arts. For the month of June 2018, Mountain Glass is offering their Boro sale. Save 33% off odds and seconds. Glass Alchemy, North Star, and Troutman. They already have a discounted rate applied to this, so no coupon code is necessary. And for all you beautiful soft glass nerds that have their creations as messy, 40% off sale. All you have to do is put in the coupon code MESSY, that's MESSY at checkout to receive 40% off. And also make sure you go and check out all of the deals and discounts and sales Mountain Glass has going on weekly and monthly. They now have a brand new website they've created just to make our life a lot easier in terms of searching and finding things on there. And they also have a ton of sales going on. Right now they have 3 separate weekly sales going on. So definitely go there and subscribe to their newsletter and stay in touch with Mountain Glass, and that's mountainglass.com. Go to mountainglass.com. Hey, what's happening? Welcome to the Wise Guy Radio Show, episode number 196. This is your host, Jason Michael, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's episode features the winner of the first round of the second year of the Tournament of Fire, which is an online glass blowing tournament put on by Cherry Glass. Our guest today is featuring Josh St.George. And Josh was the first winner, and we talk a lot about his growing up in a glass family. He is the brother of Laceface, of Lacey St. George, and has grown up as a second-generation glass blower. And we get into the talk about his upbringing and getting in the scene and going on his own and moving and having a family and all kind of fun stuff. We had a really good conversation. And the biggest thing, my biggest takeaway out of this conversation, which I like to kind of talk about, my takeaways from these, is just, again, going back to the concept of just taking your time and pacing yourself and crawling before you walk and understanding and learning this medium of glass that we all work with. Because if you don't, you're going to end up just becoming a one-trick pony, which you obviously, unless you want it to be that way, but I would hope not, that if you're putting all this time and effort and money and expenses and passion and cuts and burns and sweat and tears, all that shit we put in this glass, that you would want to learn this medium and understand it inside and out to be able to make whatever it is that you want to make. And Josh is a great example of that, and his upbringing and doing production and what he started with making marbles, and then you'll hear this whole story. I don't want to give it all away here. But it's also interesting talking about the fact that he is related to and a brother with Lacey, and seeing her and her success and how it inspired him. Another thing we talk about too, which I'm not going to talk about completely here and give it all away again, is just talks about one of his tattoos at the very end, which you got to stay tuned to hear about. It's pretty crazy and interesting, and I think you'll enjoy it for sure. But yeah, so enough of that rambling on. I'm gonna let you guys get on the show. I'm whooped. It's been a long couple days over at the Mouse House. Just did 3 days in a row, which equals to 36 hours, and that's roughly about 30 hours on the torch. You know, it's something around there that I do. But I'm talked out and tired, and just got my ass kicked for 3 days, which is never a bad thing, and I'm always appreciative of it, because as we all know, we all need a good ass kicking every once in a while, keep us in check. And coming up here on an episode, I'm going to be talking about concepts of working with glass, because I've been dealing with some issues myself here lately, working with the GTT for the first time on doing production on a large scale, clear solid sculpture that I've been dealing with DVID issues and some other things going on. So we're going to have a conversation about that. I'm going to hit up Mike Souza here this week to see about getting him on the show, because I would definitely want to pick his brain about what I've been experiencing and dealing with because of his knowledge that he has with the glass. And also, I've been wanting to get him back on for a couple of years now to do a kind of a myth-busting show. And, a lot of times, a lot of us over the years I've heard blame a lot of our issues on DVIT, and his whole thing, he kind of laughs about that DVIT is just a small percentage of usually what happens with issues in glass. But I do know specifically what I'm dealing with right now, or was dealing with, is DVIT issues, and it was just something new to me, and I changed torches. I'm working on this Bethlehem Shark right now, and haven't had any issues since. Going from the Mirage to the Shark, it's night and day for me. And it's also because I've been working with a Carlisle for almost 20 years now, and I'm used to that nice gradual heat where a GTT is just, I always say it goes from solid to soup. You know, you got to find that medium heat in between with that torch, which because I'm new to it, I haven't found it yet. So, yeah, there you go. Something I've been dealing with myself that we're going to talk about a little bit further with on the show here. And, so that being said, I'm going to rock and roll. Don't forget yet, if you're listening to the show, you've probably subscribed to it, but I'm still going to say it because I need to, as a regular housekeeping kind of thing. So if you have not yet subscribed to the show, you're new to the show, definitely click on your subscribe button on your iTunes, subscribe to the show. You can also leave us a review, and also whether it's a 5-star review if you feel we deserve it, and also a written review. And I love the written reviews. I need to get back on there and get the reviews out, the newer reviews up, and I got to start sharing them with you guys because I want to start giving some love to those who are actually taking the time out of their day to leave reviews for me. It just takes about 30 seconds to do it, especially if you have the iPhone, and you can just use the Apple iTunes app right there on your phone. You can just do it in the app. But if you don't have iPhone, you have a Droid or another one of those phones out there. There's Stitcher. There's a couple different variations. There's also iHeartRadio, which the show's on. Got to keep forgetting to do it. I got to get this thing connected to Spotify because I know now Spotify has podcasts and stuff on there as well. Just one more platform for us to get all this stuff about glass out there to everybody in the world. So again, it helps out the show a lot if you do leave reviews and some kind of star rating of some sort. Again, you just got to click a star button in your app there and hit send. It'll hook us up. Also, don't always want to talk about it, but I'm going to bring it up this time around. Just our Patreon page. It's at patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio. Calling our Patreons our wise asses. Eventually here, as I get my kiln fixed and then I start doing more video work, I'm going to be taking and creating video content for the Patreon members. There's like a $1, a $5, and a $10 and up different levels of contributing to the show. But for as little as $1 a month, you can contribute to the show, which is only $12 a year. You know, which every little penny that this show gets helps to support the cost that it costs me to support and to run the show. But also, it's going to help to improve as the show grows, and my focus changes now to more on the show and not really on my own pipes anymore. I'm going to be really just focusing on this podcast and the video work, which I'm pumped about. I begin to tell you how excited I am about all the things in the works that I've been wanting to do for so long that I will now have the time to do. So stay tuned for all that. But again, you can become a wise ass at patreon.com/WiseGuyRadio. I will have the link in the show notes. And thank you to everybody who has contributed to the show. I definitely appreciate you so much. And until next time, make sure you all stay hydrated out there. It is summertime, and I'm going to be repeating that over and over again. Hopefully get that in your head to make sure you're staying hydrated because it makes a huge difference in your day. Until next time, thank you so much for tuning in to episode 196 featuring Josh St. George, and we will see you next time on the Wise Guy Radio Show. Love you so much. Enjoy this episode. See ya. What's going on, Josh? Welcome to the show.
What's up, man? How's it going?
Good, dude. It's pretty cool. We got back-to-back shows with two Joshes, and the last one was with Josh from over at Smoke and Smitty's, who was your sponsor for the Tournament of Fire this year. And I hope that everybody enjoyed that interview because he's a badass and super humble, awesome guy, and him and his wife both. So that's why you're on the show, man, because you are the grand prize winner, in a sense, for round 1 of Season 2 of the Tournament of Fire, which, for those who are not familiar with, is a concept for an online kind of gaming with glass blowing on social media that has 3 rounds, and you won the first one, and then winners of all 3 rounds will then come together for a big national championship in a sense, which I'm having the honor to host this year in person, and it's got some things behind the scenes going on, which I'm fucking super pumped about, dude. So, yeah, so congratulations on the win. And before I get too sidetracked here, man, yeah, if you want to get us started off here by telling us how you were introduced to the Flame and your whole superhero origin story.
Yeah, well, it was quite the awesome story. I grew up around it with the family in Southern Oregon. You know, parents doing it and parents' friends doing it, and just always excited to see what was going on in the garage.
Yeah, and I guess to mention too that you are related to Lacey, so you're her brother.
Yes. So. I'll bring her into the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was quite the journey. Started around. Lucky enough, I started around 11, 12 years old, really young. I got to start making marbles, which was a lot of fun. For the first 2 years. And it was really fun as a family business. Got to do all the cool marbles and pendants and things, mushroom pendants, just different techniques that everyone was learning.
Yeah.
And then it became a family business, and the more the family joined, we had more team join in. That's when Lacey joined the crew, and by that time we were going to trade shows and as a awesome family business, and then spread out to the different shows and came up with awesome ideas. And I'm glad to be a part of this Tournament of Fire. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
something new.
Yeah, it's totally it's a killer concept. Kind of backtrack real quick. How old at one point were you when you started going to the trade shows like Champs?
The Champs trade shows was it was around 15, 16 years old.
Okay.
Still wasn't of age to go to the casinos.
Right.
But I was in the industry around it, making the small little trinkets and pendants and all the cool little jewelry that you start off making.
Yeah.
And then worked my way up to the pipes, and then the bubblers, and then the headies. Yeah,
and your teens too, which is pretty crazy, man. Like I've had a couple different artists on the show that started off young like that, and it's just an interesting dynamic to as you're growing physically, you're also like learning this whole new thing that you're kind of growing along with, in a sense.
Oh yes, like I say, it's constantly evolving, this industry. It's so many ideas that are brought to the table, and everyone just feeds off of each other and gets inspired by each other.
Yeah, would you ever
create bigger and better things?
Yeah, exactly, and a bigger and better industry too. I mean, shit, I'm sure yourself. I would have never thought that this industry would be where it is now, even 10 years ago. Thinking like, where are things going to be going? I only kind of hoped and dreamed, but not really dreamed. I guess kind of more hoped, but where it is now, like the stuff being made, like shit, the stuff you're making, dude. Like I said pre-show, like you guys gotta go definitely check out his Instagram and stuff. His work is killer and it's so unique, and I'm blown away by it. No pun intended.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem, dude.
Much appreciated.
Yeah.
It's at St.George on Instagram. It's pretty easy to get to.
Hell yeah, and it's St. George, not spelt out, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's just St. George.
Yeah, so it's interesting to grow up in a family and like of glass artists like that and being exposed to this culture early on. Like I've always appreciated the families that brought their kids on like Dead Tour and stuff, and it seemed like those children that grew up on the road in a sense, they were not only street smart, but they were also like book smart and and had a lot of different things that they could do outside of having to go to college or go get a job and end up growing up to be successful as adults. So it's interesting, kind of a dynamic to grow up in.
It really is. It's. I feel blessed every day to be where I'm at. I haven't really had another job besides my glass career, so it's definitely amazing.
Hell yeah! So early on, like I guess making pipes and stuff were some of the first things you were making.
It was pendants, and then it moved on to outside wrap pipes, and it was definitely multiple steps. Back then, people were learning things in multiple steps over a period of a years worth of time.
Mm-hmm.
It would take many years to practice.
Yeah, like that whole mantra about the tortoise beating the hare, the whole thing, it's definitely makes a lot more sense. And the growth of learning, especially, I'm sure, as you were growing up in the industry or even in the glass world, you're seeing things that you wanted to start making right away, and were made to go back to the very beginnings instead of being allowed to just jump in and start making like perfume bottles or whatever,
Oh, very much so. I was inspired daily by the people around me. Luckily enough, I had the 5-6 other older fellows around me, always inspiring me. They were making amazing stuff, so I was always inspired to try to make something bigger or just as nice alongside them. And as the student, it was a struggle, but I got through that struggle and prevailed, which was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell now with your stuff, but it also shows in your work that because of the tutelage that you've had and the slow pace, it paid off, hugely. Just based on your techniques.
It's taken some time, and I still feel like I'm coming into my element. Everyone has their own pace when it comes to artistic flow, or not even an artistic flow, just what they're doing with themselves in their career or in their life, I should say.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, environment definitely pays, a lot to, or affects, I guess, in a sense, I should say, our process of learning and progression.
Tremendously.
Yeah, because myself, I basically grew up in the glass with myself in the studio and at home in the garage, for hours upon hours upon hours trying to figure out what the fuck I was doing wrong, So to have the access like that, I didn't get around my first glass blower really working with for probably 5 years, maybe, like I shouldn't say that. I guess early on, like very beginning, I did, and then they were out of state. So once I stopped that part, it was like 6 months worth of time. I then went and got my own setup, and then got home and got busy. But from that point, it took me about 5 years till I got into a space where I was actually renting studio space with other glass blowers, which accelerated my learning process. It was crazy how fast things picked up, when you bounce the inspiration off everybody.
It's a huge difference to be around other people that are working and inspired. If you're by yourself in your own little, in your own building, you're only seeing it from a bubble, everyone else. So you got to get outside that bubble and see everyone else. And it's another thing I'm working on this year, is trying to work on traveling to collab with any other artists, around me or in the United States. I've been up to my sister's Lace Face a few times this past year, about a handful of times. I'm going to go back up to Southern Oregon again to do some more collabs with the Dojo Gallery and hopefully Darby Holmes and Karsten Carlisle. Just family friends that I've grown up around blowing glass with.
Yeah, and some badasses.
It's helpful. It's helpful to get out and do that, because that's where you find your motivation and your inspiration.
Was there ever a point like where you were trying to progress too fast and they were like, turn your torch off, go walk away kind of thing, like taking things out of your hands or anything like that?
Well, luckily enough, I was I wouldn't say slow guy, but I took my time, and the way I was taught, if you take really small steps, and learn how to crawl before you learn how to stand up,
mm-hmm.
And then learn how to waddle before you actually walk, and learn how to walk before you run. Those steps are crucial to glass blowing, because if you, once again, jump ahead, you'll be missing the most basic steps to, condense or, hold things straight. Just the basics of basic techniques.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
you wouldn't realize it.
Yeah, I know. I completely agree, and it's amazing. Like thinking about, I have an apprentice right now. He's been with me for about not physically with me, but on and off for about 2 years now. And he's at a point now where he's trying to learn how to switch the planes of your hands, by keeping your pipe and your punty in a straight, nice, flat line, to go from like, perpendicular to your body to going, vertical or horizontal. What's the parallel? Yeah, parallel to perpendicular to your body.
Correct,
and not moving the glass at all. You know what I mean? And growing up not using blow hoses for so long was part of what helped me learn that physical, almost like my body becomes a lathe, type of thing. But now that I use a blow hose, and I've seen a lot of other artists using blow hose that are new, I think to me that blow hose is a great thing to have, but it also doesn't allow you to understand and learn that just that one little thing like that, of keeping your body perfectly level and straight, and as if you have a stick in your hand and you don't move that plane doesn't break ever, or whatever you want to call it that you're working on. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yes, that is amazing that you actually brought that up, because I have actually the last shop I was at, the Dojo Gallery. Most of the guys in there were using blow hoses, and I'm against it. I actually still do not use blow tubes or the hose connected off of it. It seems like not bringing the glass up and using gravity to manipulate the glass, keeping it in that position will actually slow you down, because you're not actually bringing it up to your mouth and blowing in it. You're controlling it through the tube. So it takes it. It's just you're jumping ahead once again for sure with using the blow tube.
Yeah, I agree. And for me too, like I use it really only when I'm doing welds, like technical welds that I know I need to get that shit super clean, and I only do it just to keep the nice pressure of air in the glass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Other than that,
correct. There is certain times where it could be helpful, for sure.
Yeah, and for me, it's cleaned my work up, and I didn't use a hose or even a hand torch. I mean, fuck, dude, like the Smith hand torch has been, I know for a lot of artists, it's been a game changer, including myself.
Tremendously.
It's
oh my
so
goodness.
Crazy, right?
Likewise. I didn't get mine until I'd say 3 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Now, and tremendous difference.
And it's funny because I've had a national hand torch since I've started, and I learned on a national hand torch, and 3A blowpipe, and all it's like, oh fuck, which I use at work right now for my detail welding, whatever, torch wise, and it's a national handle, but it's got a little. I think it's an OS is the brand, OS1. It's like a little pinpoint tiny hole. I mean, it fucking cranks. Like, I love it, but it's still, I've gotten used to it now using it, but it's still awkward to have that wide body of the handle in your hand compared to that little nice pencil thin almost, handle for the Smith. It's a huge difference. But, again, I've had these hand torches, and a lot of us have for years and years and years and years and years, and just never thought about using it for what we're doing now. And the guys at work, they've all been using fucking hand torches like this for like we do now for decades. It was interesting going there and seeing it, seeing the sculptors using that kind of stuff. But for us pipe makers, it was like, oh, let's try this. And whoever did, thank God they did, because it's a game changer for the whole industry.
Yeah. Just like the tools that are being created nowadays to assist us with shaping, it does help the process, but it also slows down your learning process. So tools are really beneficial, but I'm a minimalist when it comes to tools. I still try not to use my tools to shape. The best thing to do is to learn how to shape it without using tools, and then in the end finalize it with your tools.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the best technique.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's interesting, like with my student, before I let him use a marver pad, I made him learn how to air marver, just getting used to gathering a bunch of massive liquid shit and how to balance it and keep it from falling and dropping and keeping everything symmetrical, And then once go on.
Yeah, the best analogy someone told me was it's like syrup on a stick, chopsticks or something.
Yeah. I always use the honey on a straw thing when I'm doing demos.
There you go, honey on a straw.
Yeah, it's always like when I do my demos in the hot shop at Magic Kingdom, I always tell them it's like a big bowl of honey, and I'm coming out, and I'm like, but just like honey, when glass is hot and soft, it's real sticky. And this whole thing,
that's the best analogy for sure.
But yeah, it makes them understand what the hell it is we're dealing with. But then I also let them know how much hotter it is than honey, because it's a big difference.
Oh yeah.
So So I guess back to on track here. Early on in your career when you were finding your way and you're finding some minimal success in your glass and you're understanding technique and making bigger stuff. Was there a point where they were like kicking you out of the nest to make you go do your own thing and like get on your own 2 feet, or was it something that everybody just kind of stuck you in together? We all, you guys all grow together, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was something that I was lucky enough to just get stuck in that sort of situation. The people that I was around was extremely inspired by all the other, top artists. And so they had built up an artist shop studio in the South Lake Tahoe area. So that's where we had set up, our company. It was our family owned company. It was called Glass Vibes. It was really cool. And then we ended up just slowly finding different paths like most humans do eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And, I was already in the 20s and was ready to move on and compete in other things and do other sports and do glass as well and find motivation in what I was doing. And, and glass was always calling me in the end. It's where I ended up being in the end,
So did you take some time off from the torch, or did you just kind of make it more secondary for life?
I moved down out of South Lake Tahoe about 7 years ago, and I did take a small break, about a year, but I was still melting like personal pieces. I still had the torch set up.
Okay.
So, it wasn't really a stop, but I was not really trying to provide for myself anymore. So I guess you could say I was. And then I picked it up again, and in the, 2010 or 2012, just started pushing really hard and looking for any competitions, any of the shows, and trying to show up at all these events, because that's the best way to make yourself, known, is to put your name out there and show up and say, hey, this is me. I am a real person.
Yeah. Yeah, especially before the days of social media, like to get yourself out there in public. For myself being down here in Florida and having a kid, like from day one, more or less, for me starting to learn how to blow glass, it was like I couldn't really go anywhere. So I was kind of isolated down here in Florida, but then like glasspipes.org started, and I got in on there on the ground floor with those guys, so I was able to communicate at least with these other artists out there. But I always wanted to go to the shows or go to like AGI or something like that when that was going on still, just to be able to physically mingle, like you're saying, like, hey, I'm a real person, I'm not just some dude down in Florida fucking trying to show you my wares, So it's interesting now with social media, with the way it is, because we can really share our life in a sense, those that want to. But now with these trade shows, it's and even though Champs has been around for 35 years now or some shit, it's been around forever.
Goodness, forever, yeah.
But yeah, man. So did you, like, I guess during your time off, did you, like, to support yourself, did you get a job somewhere else, or did you just like put some cash away and live on savings?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was doing, is living off savings. I being the I guess you could call it an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
I had already, had my toys set aside. So, my dirt bikes and all sorts of other fun toys. So I was able to, liquidate some things to continue life, and then realize that glass was the true calling, because I didn't know if it was the real thing to be around. Everything was so crazy, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Things in the industry are, like I said, constantly evolving, and it's interesting to see where it's gone today. The new shows that are coming up is really exciting to come and be a part of. Glass Vegas is new. They're rolling on their 3rd year, which is really fun. A couple other shows. Glass Roots has been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great show.
Yeah,
And now the Tournament of Fire, it's online, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's such a great idea. Such a great idea. And it's fun too, man, because it was something I've been thinking about for years, and I talked to a couple different shop owners about the concept of what they're doing, but it wasn't on social media, and the fact that they started it this way, which in a sense is a free way to get things rolling, is genius, and I'm blessed to be a part of this whole thing. Like it's so cool to have this landscape of artists that get a chance to compete and get their names out there. And I mean, the winnings alone, man, it's worth getting in this thing for you guys getting orders and getting your work at new shops. Like, it's such a cool way of doing it. And then Cherry Glass, I mean, that Ryan and Scott alone, both those, as a couple running this whole thing, and they got their friends helping at Cherry Glass. It's just the dynamic of it all. It's just awesome.
It's amazing, for sure. Very blessed to be a part of all this. It's these wonderful ideas, and I'm excited to see where it's going to be going.
Yeah,
I know there's big plans in the future, so it's exciting.
Yeah, man, it's cool to be a part of this whole journey with them. Kind of thinking about the family dynamic that you have. It's just, I'm always interested in human development and evolution in a sense of how we have come from the Stone Age in a sense to where we are now, especially with accelerated learning and the fact that you grew up around this. It gave you a chance to have accelerated learning in a sense, even though you still took your time and fine-tuned things. And then,
Agreed.
You walk away and you're still feeling that calling. Because I know myself personally, like I stepped away for a little bit, like 6 months, but not even that. And it was like, I needed to get my fix, dude. It was just, I had to have it. You know what I mean? And I wonder
100%.
I kind of wonder though, like, is these, because it's like, I guess the idea I'm trying to come up with is I'm wondering if these type of things are potentially genetic or not just environmental with your family having this and, as doing this. My family is full of artists and creators of some sort, whether it's education or designing or something of that nature. My daughter and my son are following the same footsteps too. And it's, glass isn't their thing, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm wondering if you just couldn't help yourself because it's like just inbred in your DNA, just like you're fucked.
That's actually a funny thing you mentioned, because my grandfather actually mentioned that to me. He says, St. George's are very artistic. It runs in the family, so I'm not surprised you're winning these events now. I'm like, oh my goodness, Grandpa.
That's awesome.
It was really, really cool to hear, though. Once again, it reminds me of my other uncles, because my other uncles are very creative. They're fabricators of making, custom show bikes, not like bicycles and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Fabricators, and then my sister being an artist as well, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
Having inspiration from her is tremendous too in my life.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting with your whole family dynamic is you guys never like you weren't like under the shadow of anybody. You guys had your own thing, like you're saying. You all kind of find your way, but you also were together as like a organized group that just kind of flowed. I mean, and like you're saying, like the people you're around, look at them, the names they have now, and then also their generations now, the kids they're having that are now just fantastic glass artists. It's I don't know, it's just such a cool thing to see.
Yeah, it's a trip being that second generation artist. I do agree. It's amazing though to be a part of the evolving industry.
Yeah, man. That's what I was saying, like pre-show, like having really been somewhat out of the pipe game for about 2 years now, and like I'm still getting the 14 mil handmade joints down to a science in a sense, and to try to like jump right into where things are now. I mean, God, I don't know, it's crazy. But what I find like with your work, for instance, is once you learn a technique like how to make a client or how to make a recycler, as an artist, you can then find ways to create art that functions like that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of where my brain is right now, is I'm not looking at doing production of recyclers and clients and shit. I want to make some art that can function the same exact way. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yes. So. And that's a hard balance sometimes.
Yeah, I know for myself personally, because I'm blessed having with the job that I have, I can afford to do that, because not everybody, gets a chance to sit and just be like, hey, I'm going to go fuck off today on the torch. Even though I think everybody should, whether you can afford to or not. That's where, it's where things happen.
Of course. That's exactly it. That's where your most creative juices are flowing, they say. You're in your own. That's where you get your most inspiration.
Yeah. So that being said, like, where does a lot of your stuff come from, inspiration wise? Because your line of work is all over the place, but the
Very all over the place.
Yeah, but it's so clean, dude. It's like, I don't know.
Thank you. It's quite the trip with my inspiration. I've definitely been inspired by many things in life. I used to skateboard, through my teens, snowboard, mountain board, and I competed in all those different activities.
Nice.
And then always, looked up to dirt biking and four-wheeling, So I was definitely into a range of things, and I used those as motivation, or not motivation, but inspiration, I should say, to make certain designs, function. Function over fashion was a lot of my saying back in the day.
Yeah, it's so true though.
And so a lot of those designs would come from, the fun sports around me, the throwing knives, or the trucks, or the blow dart guns that I was playing with as a teenager, or the silly stuff that I had as a kid, essentially.
Yeah,
I love pulling things from like what's in front of me, and then how do I turn that into a functional rig?
Yeah, exactly. That's the same perspective I have. Exactly. Like, I love seeing shit in nature. Like when I started seeing radicellos and filicellos coming out, like early, like this is like 15 years ago. Like when this kind of the idea was coming in, like when fucking the hell's I'm having a complete brain. Scott Deppie first came out and started doing these crazy patterns and these filicellos and stuff. And I started seeing like patterns in like car rims. Back in the day in the 90s when car rims were like the shit. Like you're a status if your rims were on. If they were spinning and everything. But
yeah,
but they always had
the Celtic knots.
Yeah,
were off the chain.
Right, but all that was awesome inspiration for our patterns in glass, or looking at like a pine cone, or looking at like sacred geometry and that kind of shit. Like it's cool to take things out of life like that from other artists. I mean, fucking nature's our best artist we have. But
agreed. I feel like that'll opened up our eyes, is seeing those other artists do, throw their inspiration into it. A lot of us realize, hey, we can bring our inspiration into this thing that we do as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Our vision, or your own vision, I should say.
Yeah, so when you're coming up with it for something, because obviously you do production, but you're also doing a lot of one-offs, with from what I've seen, and obviously it's all through social media. I'm not seeing your studio setup, but I'm assuming that you do production, but you also have your one-offs. But when you're coming
I'm actually. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh no, it's fine.
I'm actually not doing too much production.
Awesome.
My production line is these series. I've started a series lately. I feel like that's the style that seems to have been jiving with the networking and the sales and marketing. Brand name is a big one too, branding yourself. So starting a series essentially, and signing my pieces and numbering them and bringing and offering them to the public as a series and a limited number is better than just pushing out these production pieces that I've done my whole younger life. As a family business, I've made countless thousands and thousands of different types of pieces, stems, one-ease, whatever, everything you can imagine production wise. So it's I try to veer away from that and bring myself into the artistic world. So yes, a lot of one-off pieces, one-off designs with this shape and function in mind is what I'm leaning towards.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're coming up with that, then do you like draw it on paper, create some kind of blueprint kind of concept, or thumbnails like to get this out of your head?
goodness, I have this enormous draft table in my glass shop. Time to time, I do have sketches. A lot of the time, it's just burnt into my memory and my mind because I've envisioned a lot of these designs, as I'm working on them. So it's a lot of time these designs are just burnt into your head,
Mm-hmm.
and as you make them, you're like, okay, I already know what's next, the next step. So sometimes you can let it out on paper, but a lot of time it's all about hands-on.
Yeah. Interesting. Because I know, like myself personally, I usually have to draw it on paper first, just to purge my head, so I can focus on the piece that I'm going to make ahead. Otherwise I'm like
Definitely.
second guessing myself at times. You know what I mean? But
For
so
sure.
I can appreciate what you're saying though.
Thank you.
Yeah, because it's not easy to do that.
It's
You know.
practice.
Well, again,
and it does help.
Yeah.
It does help to draw it out.
Yeah. But also, like you stated, the fact that you have already behind you thousands of hours of production that you've already done. So now you understand the medium. So now you can make whatever the fuck you want to make. I mean, it really comes down to it.
Essentially, yes. It's nice, though, to be able to make the production. Don't get me wrong. There's, those few awesome customers that are just, they want your specific type of style piece.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's production. If people want that, then, definitely give the customers what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my vision, at least.
Yeah. But my whole point too is that fact that you are where you are now because you did that. Like you repeated the process of one specific thing over and over again, honed it in, went to the next thing, which to me, learning this medium is something that you've got to do. You have to really just take your time and pace yourself and not try to jump ahead. You can jump ahead a little bit and then realize that you're not quite ready for that, so then you step back. And if you jump ahead a little bit and you're successful, you still need to go backwards because you're going to try it 4 more times and it's going to look like shit. Like one step forward, 20 steps backwards. I've always kind of found when I will do myself that way, like I'll do a wigwag for the first time, like, oh, this thing's fucking perfect. And then I'll do like 5 more wigwags in a row and they all suck.
It's definitely a practice.
Yeah.
Practice of consistency.
Yeah, exactly. So early on in your sales side of things, when you broke away and started doing your own thing, like, about how old were you then?
It was that was a little rough in my personal career.
Yeah.
For many years during my teenage years as the family business, fortunately, I wasn't really taught too much of the business side. I had worked tremendously a lot of time filling up cases for the family, and for, the stepfather to go on sales trips. I joined time to time. And I broke off eventually when I was, about 19, 20 years old. I finally actually started doing my own sales. So it took some time.
Yeah.
And learned it on my own time, which was quite the struggle in itself.
Yeah, man, it can be. It's easy to do and manage if you do it, but it's also you got to fucking do it. You
gotta do it. Yes, I mean, if you want to be in your own, your own artist, your own boss. There's a word I'm trying to think of. Your own entrepreneur, I guess. Yeah. You gotta be able to sell your stuff and make it and rep it, brand it, do it all the steps, do all the good things.
Yeah, exactly. That's why with this show I don't know if it's a coined term that I use, but I refer to the artistic entrepreneur. To where you can not be a starving artist. There's no reason as a glassblower to be a starving artist, and so that being said, like early on, like what were some of the mistakes you made, like trying to sell stuff, like, stepping on toes or underselling, like what were some of the things you found that you had to learn from?
Yeah, well, I feel like my issue was I always wanted to get it in the customer's hands. So yes, there was times I felt like I would probably go in there and try to, hook up the shops for better prices. In the end, I feel like other people wouldn't be as happy, or we were lowering prices. But in the end, we're putting glass in the customer's hands, because those are the guys that are going to be supporting us. I mean, sure, the head shops support us as well, but we need them to come back to buy another piece.
Yep, exactly.
So it's definitely a tricky one to learn.
Did you find like early on that you developed relationships with specific shops that were like repeat customers for yourself?
Definitely. Well, a lot of these shops, I was blessed enough they have known me prior.
Mm-hmm.
They were buying my glass through my father-in-law, my teacher, and he was already representing me. So the shops that already knew me when I had walked in there when I was older, they're like, okay, yes, we will buy from you 100%, because we have already been buying your glass for years.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was amazing. Very helpful.
Yeah, man, it's interesting, because I guess besides Lacey, you're one of the second guest having on that's had that dynamic already. Already had an establishment, even though you're not living on the name per se, like name dropping, like I'm a St. George, or whatever, but
Right.
but you still had the option and the opportunity to be exposed and also to develop these relationships early on, and I guess that's kind of where like the street smarts kind of things comes in this industry, to understand to develop the relationships and also to maintain those relationships too, which obviously you did.
Hugest part in this industry. That's one of the things I've learned this past few years, is the relationships in this industry is tremendous. It's got to be open, not necessarily to open, well, always open, but just be friends with everybody you can that is in this industry with you. We all want to grow together. So the best thing to do is, communicate and try to maintain those relationships as often as you can, because that's how we grow as fast as we have, and that's why we all get inspired by each other, is when we see each other.
Yeah, that's
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%. Hell yeah. So I guess from that point then, doing the trade shows and stuff, then you went on to start competing in some of these, the champs games or what have you. So what were some of the first competitions that you got yourself out there into?
Well, the very first one I actually competed in was, believe it or not, Champs Trade Show 2017.
No shit.
So it was last year. It was very fun. It was last minute decision. Was there traveling, met up with my brother-in-law, Scuba Steve, with the Walton Trading Company. He's a distributor. He was based out of Austin, Texas. It's Laceface's husband. He's an amazing person, amazing human. He's met up with him. He talked me into competing, of course, as a good brother should. Mm-hmm. And didn't have any game plan. Went there and completed all of my competition pieces, which was really amazing.
Yeah, it is.
It felt good to actually complete the pieces that I had gone there knowing, not even having any game plan.
Yeah.
Did not place, but still had an awesome time, conversating, meeting new people, and making those relationships, solid again. Because, like you said, it's tremendous in this industry to make those and maintain those relationships.
Yeah, man. Especially with this industry, as spread out as we all are, we're also so tightly knitted together. If there's a bad apple out there, we're gonna feel it.
Very much so. Yes, we hear of that apple very quick. Yeah. Somehow. I don't. It's very funny how that happens.
I know it. And it's been like that for as long as I've been in this industry, for almost 20 years now.
Of course. I feel like that's in almost any industry, though.
A
lot of humans take this industry for granted. I feel like, it's a trade, and it does take many years to perfect or even to practice. just to get to a comfortable zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I wonder too. Like I kind of question a lot. Like if it ever happens with federal legalization, and the studio becomes a known thing amongst the government in a sense as a pipe maker, and then we become this industry, which we are already, but it's weird the dynamic we have inside the views of the government or whatever. But the point is I'm wondering if eventually like OSHA will come in and involved, because we're now a manufacturing facility, whether it's a home studio or a studio you have with a bunch of friends. If they're going to come in and be like, "Are you guys up to speed on all the codes and all that kind of shit?" Which again is part of this show is like I want to try to teach some of that stuff as I learn it.
That's a real vision. Yes, so we should be more aware of these things that are being exposed to. Because nowadays the legalization it's becoming so much quicker than we all imagined, especially Nevada and California, already Oregon before us, and pretty sure Washington.
Yep.
All sorts of states. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
it's really crazy.
Yeah, I know. Like we have a guy running for governor for next year that's wanting to do full recreational here in Florida, which would be killer. Like they're still figuring out the whole medical shit right now. It's been over a year, so hopefully they figure it. Yeah, it's annoying, dude. Yeah, we've had this law that the flowers were not allowed to be part of the medical. It had to all be tinctures and liquids and shit like that. And I think part of the issue is our governor right now at one point in time had the largest fine for Medicaid fraud from the government. Like his crazy millions and millions of dollars his old company that he worked for were fined for, and now he's our governor. So as years ago we all talked about, a couple of us here talked about the fact, we hope it doesn't happen, but the fact that when things become medical and he's got connections to the farms, that potentially that everything's going to become pharmaceutically made, not naturally grown, which is what somewhat they're using extractions, but it's still not all 100% natural like the other states are doing basically. And we just finally had a lawsuit that the people who sued actually won to allow the flowers now for the growers here to be able to sell that in a sense, directly to the dispensaries and stuff. Yeah, it's all fucked up.
Wow,
so
that's quite the process.
Yeah, and you figure with all these states that already have medical that we would just follow the leader. What are these guys doing? But they don't want to do their own thing and whatever. It just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. But that being said, I think that the vision that we all have is for this industry, and it's being taken seriously now, but on a more scale of generalized thing, like we talk about, like this Tournament of Fire thing. Like imagine one day if it's on Discovery Television and they're making some amazing pipes in a glass competition on cable television that everybody can see. You know what I mean? So
yes, I agree. That's something that could be real in the future. And everyone wants to see that sort of thing. Everyone wants to see reality TV in some sort or another. And glass is right there in our reality. It's our new age art.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, speaking of reality shows, imagine if a lot of these studios that had more than 4 glass blowers in them had a hidden camera or some shit that was like streamed out to the world. Talking about some drama.
That would be actually amazing to see some of those shops with multiple artists. Yeah, that would be quite the show.
Yeah, especially if they know that they're not on camera, or don't know that they're on camera, I should say. It'd be
yes, that would be the funniest part.
Yeah, the fly on the wall perspective.
the big brother.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be crazy. Yeah, man. So now Tournament of Fire comes aboard. So you do the champs thing, and then that was the Tournament of Fire the next in line for you for the competitions?
Yes, actually, the Tournament of Fire was. Actually, I competed in the Tournament of Fire a year before. I actually did forget about that. So the season 1.
Okay.
With Terry Sharp was in that one. He had won that first season. Yeah, I had competed in that one as well, but I got eliminated, and that was a lot of fun as well. just to be a part of the very first one. And then it was Champs Trade Show. I don't know why I spaced off the very first Tournament of Fire, but this one was a lot of fun as well. Scott had changed up the dynamic of no longer eliminating glass artists. We could all continue to compete, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And show our work, which brought forth a tremendous more amount of work, which was available.
Yeah,
which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great platform for exposure, which is killer. It's just something new, and then they had like the guys online on Facebook that were live streaming it too. And you got millions of people that follow that page, and they're all getting to see this whole situation too. It's just so cool.
Yeah, that was definitely amazing that was possible.
Yeah, and I think too what helps out that they're helping. And I wish Scott and I talked about this when he came on the show. Is kind of the idea that they're helping the artists learn how to live stream, and how to show what's going on inside your studio. You not only get the opportunity to do it, but really to learn how to communicate and talk to and promote yourself and be out there.
100%.
Yeah, it's all new for us.
It is. The social media has gained so much presence. I mean, it's always been here, but the new age is actually teaching us quicker than we are learning ourselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's promoting ourselves on the social media platforms are a tremendous help.
Yeah, it certainly is. And so with Tournament of Fire-wise, the first round was what? Make it all clear piece?
The very first round was all clear piece, yes. And the second round...
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it up, actually, the schedule.
Was a dry pipe.
Okay.
And the third round was a bubbler. And the fourth round was freestyle.
Yeah, and your piece, you made what was the samurai you made, right? Was that your first?
Yeah, the samurai was the freestyle piece. I had actually had all those designs mixed up. At first, when I thought about making the Tournament of Fire pieces, originally wanted to, make a warrior or something as a clear piece. Previously made some in clear, and it doesn't bring out the detail as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clear it kind of hides a lot of detail, so had to do something outside the box that I've been inspired by, which was the off-road scene. The rock bouncers from actually your neck of the woods. They're all the way over there and in the East Coast.
Okay. The
rock bouncers, they're called. Big V8 motors, some big 43-inch tires, just it's like RC cars up a full-size hill. So I was inspired to do that and put that into glass. Got some really cool projects in mind, full-colored projects in mind for those rock bouncers as well.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now. It's cool because you show your drawing on there first, then I'm just watching the video. But yeah, dude, super intricate piece. Like, dude, and I'm assuming that the wheels roll, everything. It works.
Correct. Yeah. So I wanted to make the function too. I've always been about multiple functional pieces. Yeah. So that one rolls as well.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm watching the video right now. It's hilarious. I mean, even just the detail on the engine alone, like the little side pipes, like everything. It's freaking gnarly.
So fun. And
even like the joint placement, bro, is super smart. Like it's a big supercharger with that air intake, coming in, which really it is, Yeah,
I feel like that's always what I've leaned towards is, that for fashion. So you got to put them.
Oh, hey man, I'm losing you. I lost you. Your signal's being a little weird.
The people. I'll look up to the people who've been around.
Hell yeah. Hey, your signal.
Losing connection?
Yeah, it's just being a little weird. See if it comes back up. It's just saying poor network connection. You're getting a little staticky.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, you sound fine now, but I don't know. It's weird.
That was weird.
Okay, yeah, it went away. But yeah, man, I agree. I think function over form should always be, and then once you learn, oh Jesus, someone that doesn't have a muffler on their car just decided to drive by.
Of course.
But yeah, and then the full photo post of the piece is cool too. Like the way it's fucking details, man, are awesome.
Thank you. It was definitely a lot of fun doing the roll bar effect with the tubing there, making that function happen in the motor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, especially when you take a water rip off that thing, it bubbles in there and looks like it's a real motor doing its thing.
Yeah.
It's neat as shit. Yeah, so then the next one you do is your blow dart, which you're talking about it, as a kid, having a blow dart gun and stuff, and then you make one in glass. Is that what the inspiration came from?
So in the end, it was burned in my memory, of course, having a blow dart gun. My first thought process for the dry pipe was a wall installation, something that I could pull off the wall and smoke off of, have a pipe, essentially. And I talked to Smitty like the week before, or a few days before actually, and he asked, do I have any ideas for, that dry pipe? And I said, yeah, I have an idea, but, it's kind of in between this and that. And he's like, well, what if you do a blow dart gun? And I'm like, oh my goodness. That flows in the wall ornament, essentially, because it's long and, I could string the flowers down it.
Mm-hmm.
It just works perfectly for the wall ornament piece. So thankfully for his awesome idea at the last, somewhat last minute.
Yeah.
I was able to do a blow dart gun.
Well, it's cool too
that
that
multifunctional.
Yeah, dude, this thing's. I'm watching the video for it. It's so gnarly. But I mean, the fact that you guys communicated through this process too, I think is pretty cool. As him being your sponsor and staying in touch.
It was super cool. Yeah, I really, really valued his opinion on giving me an idea because as artists, sometimes we run into those roadblocks and the blower's block they call it.
Yeah.
Where you have a hard time. You know what you want to make, but you just don't know how it could be executed or designed. And sometimes having a second opinion, especially from someone that is helping you out along the way, tremendous help.
Yeah, man, having parameters as an artist is ideal for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. So let me get into fucking round 3, which is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
I first saw this thing and I'm like, what in the shit is going on here? And then I watched the video back and forth. I even showed the manager at my store, who's like completely nowhere near anything into our scene whatsoever. And I'm like, dude, you have got, because he appreciates Star Wars and comic books and shit. So I'm like, dude, you got to see this. This is just what the fuck is going on right now, kind of thing,
Yeah, I was coming in hot for sure.
Dude,
to be honest, I was nervous about the other artists. I wanted to come strong. I felt good and confident in the pieces that I was making. I even asked the public if I should make a double or a quad, and majority of them said quad, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And added that fourth bubbler on and knew that it was going to have some blades of some sort coming off of it. And the glove was just perfect design for that whole thing.
Man, it's
definitely a lot of fun.
I bet. So what color did you use for the metal? Or is that actual metal?
That is a really old color. It's over over a decade old. It's Disco Sparkle.
Oh yeah.
They actually do not make that color no more. Disco Sparkle from North Star.
Yeah, I got like 5 pounds. I've been holding on to that shit just because of that.
Yeah, some of us do.
Yeah.
You know, some of us hold on to it, and that's one of those colors. It's finicky. You got to mix a lot of clear into it.
Yeah.
But then it becomes this really nice metally looking color.
Well, that's what I was asking, dude, because the blades are smooth as fucking eggs, bro. Like they are. That color can be a kick in the balls, you know. I mean, the off gas is all weird and just gets crazy. But then you add some clear to it, like you're saying. Yeah. It's clear makes it like butter. I like using it in cobalt or red, like all kind of stuff. It looks awesome.
Correct. Yes. The best thing to do with that old stuff though is encase it instantly.
Yes.
Encase it and then melt it, because then you're kind of keeping some of it in there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Agreed.
What's the green in this thing? What was it?
The green is experimental green.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that experimental green is something else.
Yeah, I love that stuff. And then the rest of it, is it Illuminati on there? That's what I'm seeing.
It's actually a mix of Oscar and Sublime.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the Sublime is kind of throughout the web work. The Oscar is the solid tri-bar work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, it's cool, man. So to get it to fit your arm like you're wearing it, did you have to make like a little template or something like that?
Oh no, that was actually funny. I almost burnt my arms a few times. I was
wondering.
I was just trying to. I would stick my hand like into it, and like, oh, that looks about right. I did burn my forearm once.
That's the shit I'd do. I figured I would ask the ladder first, because I'm like, if it was me, I'd just put my hand in there to keep that bitch, put a glove on or something, you know.
I totally did. You know, I didn't even have a glove. I just tried to grip it.
Oh man, beast.
Fun stuff.
And then your little Wolverine post, bro, is fucking hilarious. It's so funny.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah, so then we come to your grand prize winner, which is your Samurai Warrior, which is also your whole like logo. We'll talk about afterwards, but yeah, so the warrior piece, man, the thing is beautiful. I love the red. The pomegranate is the shit.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love that red.
He was definitely inspired by the pomegranate ninja. I gotta admit, you know, always had that in vision, you know, but I always thought about the St.George warrior theme, the night.
And for those that don't know what you're talking about, the pomegranate ninja is from the commercial for the pomegranate drink that they had that liquidy ninja dude. I saw him too, and I'm like, damn, I want to make that. And then I saw your piece, and I knew that's where you got it from, dude.
I'm sure everybody thought the same thing. I mean, there's a few different characters that commercial had. It was really cool.
I know. It's man, but the glass itself. When I first started using this, I was making flowers for the longest time, and it just makes like the most beautiful red petal. And then I started using it in my owls and making solid red bodies with like, you have the opal eyes, like with opal eyes in them, and like making like using fucking North Star yellow for the wings, you know, just for that offset accent with the yellow and the red. Because to me, like the two of those colors together are amazing. But the red by itself, man, that red by itself is just amazing. And also what I like about it is it's a translucent color, but you can still see detail in it, like your cuts and all the pieces you have, you know?
Correct.
Yeah, so how long did that thing take you to make?
Well, luckily enough, I kept my schedule every day through the tournament. We had 24 hours to build these pieces, you know, and the first few days and the first few heats, I've heard people staying up through the night. I could not bring that to myself to do that, you know, stay up through the night and work through the day to get the full 24 hours in. I'd made sure to fall asleep nice and early the day before and wake up really, really early. And I give myself at least 14 hours, you know, 14 to 16 hours before the day is done. So I actually finished all these competition pieces within 12 to 13 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, which was pretty amazing. I made sure to keep it within my realm of what I knew how to do, because that's always important in a competition. You always want to keep it, in your comfortable zone to make sure you complete what
Yep.
you're working on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
The
so
worst thing you do is to make something new for a competition.
it's tricky, I mean,
Hmm.
unless you've practiced it, which a lot of people do practice their pieces.
Yeah.
I'm not quite the guy. I'm one of those type of characters that'll just jump headfirst and learn later. And I'm glad it went well. Was very, very, very glad. It's
Yeah,
what all
yeah.
these years of practice is made for. It's for when you're in these heat of the battle.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the concept of practicing your piece was something I never even thought about. And I remember reading something or hearing something and somebody was talking about that. Oh, you know what it was? It was my fucking brother. My brother's been doing glass for 6 years now. And he's out in Colorado, dude. He blows me away with the stuff he's doing nowadays. Like he's got his own perspective and everything. It's awesome. Yeah, his like character like high end production line, if you want to call it that, is called Lurk the World, and he's called this little thing the Lurker, and it's a super cute little character. And his work's evolved over the years, but he's finally found like his voice, and what he's doing. It's amazing. But I remember he got into the competition champs a couple years ago, and for like the first round or whatever to see who would go on to the Masters. But long story short, he mentioned about practicing his piece. And he told me that he had heard that from other artists that were doing the same thing, and I was like, "Damn, that's something I never thought about." I'm the same way, bro. I go to things feet first, and I'm like, "All right, let's do this."
Let's jump in.
That whole build your wings on the way up kind of concept, as you're dropping off a cliff.
That's it, though. And some of us can learn that way. A lot of us can learn that way. It's just have to believe in yourself and have confidence.
Yeah, exactly. The confidence is key, and you can only really gain confidence by practice.
100% correct. I'm glad I said that first before. Yes.
Hell yeah. So then we step up, which I wanted to ask you about too. So you get to Las Vegas, and they have this post of you and this crazy fucking robot transformer looking thing that you're holding.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun as well. He was inspired by a friend, my old neighbor. One day I walked over to his house and walk into his man cave, and little behold, his whole man cave. It's about a 10 by 10 building. This is full of transformers
Awesome.
from floor to roof. Just every transformer you can imagine, and the high end good ones to the knockoff ones to every one in between. And I was like, wow, that's amazing, because I was already inspired by my warrior sci-fi style mech warriors is what I was calling them, mechanical mech warriors. Like characters with guns for their arm or weapons as their arms, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to build from that. And as soon as I seen those transformers, it was on, game on. And especially with all the new cool UV colors. Yeah, that's even cooler. I was just like, I was so excited to build that, and it was a lot of fun.
It looks like
all the UV colors together.
Yeah, and yeah, man, and they work well. Like the contrast between the purples and the yellows, like that, they look great. Or the greens, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly. I know. There's 4 different UV colors. I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Illuminati, Nova, Blue V, and Lucy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Lucy is one of those underrated colors. I love that stuff.
Very much so. It's a sad color though that it fades so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I try to use it more often, and it ends up washing out, which is tricky.
Yeah, it's a great accent color though. For sure.
Very much so. Yes.
But nothing worse, dude, than turning on your black light and seeing a bunch of nibs in your fucking bucket because you used it for a punny.
Oops.
Yeah.
That can happen.
Yeah, I've done that before. I know lots of people do. So the texture on this thing, I mean, it looks like you added glass. You maybe used some texturing tools. Like, there's a lot of fucking impressions and details in this thing, dude. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, man, there's so many different little odd and little metal trinkets, little tools. You can buy tools from, a lot of the companies nowadays. Blast Shield, Arrow Springs, well, oh my goodness, all sorts of companies that are offering different cool tools. A lot of the time I like to find random miscellaneous pieces of metal around, say, my garage or my workshop that I can imprint into glass, which is really cool. And that's where I'd find like little circle shapes or just arrows or just the most basic shapes to imprint into glass, which is really cool.
Yeah. I can see that. Speaking of that, so something I've been learning with my gig over at that Mouse House there is with our artists and all the different tools they use. Because I'm the same way, bro. I'm minimal. Like my setup's like my torch, my glasses, my marver pad, a butter knife, a spoon, maybe a reamer or two, and a paddle. Typically, that's like my setup. And that's even for blown glass too. And working with these guys now, like they have all these interesting impression tools they use for like doing like eye details or doing like an eye socket, and then you do the eyeball and then you do the pupil, like in different size brass tools. And they're the same thing. Like they go to these hobby marts and stuff, and they buy parts for like remote control cars or different types of things. But as long as the metal is able to be used, in glass and not melt, basically.
Correct.
But one of the things they told me to get is like one of them, like Michael's or a craft store like that. You can go buy like little thin sheets, or it's like a roll basically of tin that you would use for making your own cookie cutters out of. And you can take those and bend them and manipulate them and shape them into different angles and whatever. And then you can just use a pair of hemostats to grab one end of it and use that to make impressions in your tools. And one of our guys that makes...
Great idea.
He does Donald Duck, and he uses that for his brow, like to make his angry kind of furrowed brow. He just presses that. He's already got it shaped out and just presses it into the forehead. And I'm like, I saw him do it one day. I'm like, damn, that is fucking smart as shit. Like the little things like that I've never thought about before until you see somebody doing it, and it's like, oh, it makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Like the fucking Snuggies or those kind of things people make out there, that make millions of dollars. It's like, why didn't I think about that? But of course, it is what it is. But yeah, so that being said, impression tools, man, are great to have. And by the looks of this thing, you obviously had a lot of fun, dude. Because looks like you spent a year making it.
That's the key with glass, is you just got to try to have fun, and that'll show to the buyers. If I feel like glass is so much. Speaks a loud voice, just like an art piece does. And you can literally see it in every piece that you make. Every piece has a loud voice. Even if it's a production pipe. If you could tell the amount of work has gone into it. If you know about the amount of work that it takes to go into it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Which again is why I love the fact that a lot of these smoke shops nowadays are having the gallery. Like I was talking with Smitty, like they have their gallery right now. We talked about whether they're going to have a glass blowing studio in there eventually, and they want to, and to be able to bring the public in to see, hey, this is what goes on with what happens here and how things are made and the amount of effort and time and heartache that goes into it.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah, it definitely takes time.
Yeah, and then again to the Tournament of Fire, it's another reason why it works so well. It's helping educate our customers.
That is the biggest part of this, especially through the social media world, because there's nothing like this. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing that he's came up with something so broad that can reach such a huge audience.
Yeah. Yeah, until you get the customer who's like, yeah, I'd like this size rig, this is the shape, I want these 5 colors, and this consecutive and Calmo pattern with the filicello, and the details that people can give you. It's awesome, but it's fucking hilarious. You see the shit,
Totally. It definitely depends on the artist you're asking to, because
Yeah.
every artist has a means of his own limits.
Yeah, threshold per se.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. His comfortable zone.
Yep. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious. But again, dude, like, I mean, there's like, you're talking about the competition that was in this tournament, and like I was saying pre-show, like, I'm so glad I didn't do this first round, just because I've been out of this pipe game for as long as I have, and to catch up to speed and then try and compete, it just isn't going to be possible for myself. And because the competition level this round, last year's competition level was outstanding, and this year it seems like it just kicked up a whole notch. It's like, and they're from artists that I have never heard about from before, like yourself, dude. Like, I know I had to have seen your work at some point in time through the years. However, just recently coming across you because of the Tournament of Fire. And I'm glad I did. I mean, here you are now on the show, but also because I get to see your work and see how badass it is. And for me, it's inspiring to see this kind of stuff being created.
Much appreciated. I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's cool
Yeah.
that they're doing this. It is super cool.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm going to turn off my Instagram now so I don't get distracted anymore by glass.
That can happen.
Man, it's like a YouTube wormhole. Start looking at glass techniques. Next thing you know, you're watching cat videos or some shit.
It's the rabbit hole for sure. Keep spiraling down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's the worst. So the topic I want to bring up now is your sister, and growing up with her and seeing her success, and the kind of trailblazing that she did in the terms of, like, the women in this industry early on in her career, when it was all a bunch of burly big guys with beards and blowing glass in their studios kind of thing. And then she all of a sudden comes in, like Darlene. There's a couple of them that were around that made a big wave in the industry. But the fact that she's your sister and growing up in that, like, did it hold you back at all, or were you like super inspired and powered up by it? Like, kind of.
Oh yeah, definitely inspired by it. Well, the thing is I was always next to her the whole time. As we're not too far in age, only 4 years difference.
Okay.
But her coming into the shop, I had already prior worked with glass for about 3 to 4 years prior to her coming in.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So when she came in, I was able to teach her along the way, with some of the techniques. I wasn't the main teacher, but of course I'd help with different techniques. So it was definitely cool to see her, progress. And then, as all family does, split apart to find other inspiration, other motivation, and to see her path veer in the path that she's gone and use that as motivation is just amazing, and definitely inspiring to be behind her and watch her show up at all those shows and put in all the effort that I know that it takes in order to succeed. And she knows what it takes to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why she's where she's at today.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, and then, the fact that she won her first tournament she ever entered into, like just little things like that. It's just interesting to see the, not that you're following her footsteps per se, but in a sense you are. It's
Definitely.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. And I think it's interesting too, the fact, like, which I didn't realize, that you were doing glass before she did. However, she got into the bigger scene, I guess, before you did, in a sense. It's interesting.
Well, yeah, her being female, a little easier for her to be social, and be open about it, I guess. And I came into it as a different outlook, more of a different family times, I guess you could say.
Yeah. And that being said, here we are now in the present day, and like when her and I were talking on the show, and she takes 18 months off because she gets pregnant and married and has babies and is moving, and here you are yourself having a kid and having a family at the same time, which is, like we said pre-show, it's awesome, the fact that you guys have kids. And you said, what, they're 2 days apart?
2 weeks
Oh, 2 weeks
apart.
apart. Okay, I knew there's a 2 in there somewhere, but still 2 weeks isn't really nothing.
I know. It's really amazing how close they are. It's really cool to see them both grow and evolve. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, yeah.
When they say time goes by fast, it's really going by fast.
Dude, I can't believe it's already fucking June of 2018. You know,
Yes.
like my daughter will be 19
Agreed.
next month. Talking about putting some time in perspective for you, how fast time goes by.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. That's the only reason I know how long I've blown glass for, because of how old she is. So keeps me in
That's
check.
amazing.
But yeah, so it's interesting, because like she was talking about, after having the child and kind of reinventing herself as a glass artist and realizing that really her whole career, in a sense, she was just trying to, like, her personality or persona or whatever she felt like was her was on this female glass artist, had to strive, get through all these boundaries and borders and shit, and kind of lost herself and who she was, and getting away, stepping away from it, and then having a child, and then really finding who she is as a woman, and also then as a glassblower, and now she's got this whole new rebirth and kind of a phoenix sense perspective, in the glass, which is incredible. And I was so happy that she shared that with us, because I like vulnerability and that kind of intimate conversation, especially as a parent myself, and understanding that kind of shit. So when you stepped away from it and moved and what have you, do you find, like, was your child in that same time frame being born when you took a break?
No, my time frame was a little sooner,
Okay.
or I should say, like, it was more of like the 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Just because it was, had been doing it for so long already. Oh goodness, a good handful of years before that, and had some family issues and had to just step away for a little while.
Yeah.
But it was always, like I said, it was always calling me, and I knew that I needed to continue to do it because it was just so comfortable to me, and knew that's what I needed to do.
Yeah, and then you have the child now, and that just kind of kicks things into a whole different perspective and gear for you.
It's definitely more motivation to be the better person that we all strive to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be interesting to fast forward like 20 years to see if you're gonna have a glass blower for a kid.
My goodness. I'm excited to see where these kids are gonna take us. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Because like I was saying, like both my kids are super creative, and I've never been a parent that was like the coach or the theater parent. I've always exposed my kids to just about anything and everything in life, and if they strived at something or found a lot of interest in it, then we would push them in that direction. And then if they fizzled out from it, it's like, okay, fine. I would still kind of like have a motivational talk about why you're fizzling out, just to kind of get some perspective from them. But in general, it's I think at yourself too, the same perspective of just exposing your kids to things, and you being exposed to glass early on in your life. I wonder if your parents ever were like, "Yeah, I hope you're not a glass blower." Like, did they ever say that to you?
Yeah, I'm sure they probably have. I was separated essentially as a teenager as well. So I had a father that was doing something completely different, and then my mother and stepfather that were doing the glass scene. So I was definitely pulling and kind of torn to do something different, like what my real father was doing, which was the St. George heritage, like creating stuff, fabricating, all that stuff. So that was in my blood, essentially.
Yeah.
like you said, it was always in my blood. So as soon as I had touched this other medium, that I was able to create things with, not just tearing apart toys and trying to put them back together, but using a medium to create things and shape them and do something, put my own vision into it. It's something that it's hard to let go of.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely amazing, this glass.
Yeah, we're pretty blessed, huh? Yeah,
Definitely blessed.
it's a perspective that we have that has been a tradition for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. However, it's only been experienced by a few. You know, if you look at the society and the world and the population of people who have existed on Earth, and only like a small, tiny percentage of us get this perspective. You know, it's pretty
Very
badass.
true.
Which I always recommend
Agree.
people go do something like, the public. I tell them all the time, go do a tandem glass blowing thing. Go make a heart or a pumpkin, or just to have that experience, just so you can feel the heat and the smell,
Agreed.
and all that shit. Because
It's yeah, it's filling it's filling those oh goodness, it's almost like the muscle memory, but you're getting the feel of it.
yeah, even if it's just a taste. And then those that get the taste, sometimes they become addicted.
100%.
Like me.
Yep.
And yourself.
It's
I'm
amazing.
sure. Yeah, it is right.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
So, do you have any kind of visions and perspectives? I know earlier we were talking about your line of work in terms of what you're doing with your series. Like, are you something which I think is a very smart idea, because you're creating like this kind of scarcity mindset with your people that buy your stuff. You gotta the whole FOMO
Yeah.
thing. Is that something you want to kind of continue and grow and experiment with?
It's definitely something I'm going to continue to experiment with, continuing on with the series, and always keep up with the inspiration that, you are inspired by. I feel like we all are similar in a sense, everyone has their own inspiration, and, there's a lot of us that are similar. So, if you make something that you're inspired by, then most likely there are 10 more people out there are going to be inspired by it as well.
Oh yeah, bro. Just thinking about it causes it to happen. I always talk about it on here all the time. I just always laugh about that shit. You think about some idea on the torch, and then you make it, and then you don't show anybody yet, but you go on Instagram, and that same night, 4 other people made the same damn thing.
Oh yes,
so
that
weird.
has happened all the time to every one of us. But it's crazy. I just feel like we're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah, exactly.
Throwing those brain waves across the atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, power of the mind, like that whole secret thing, it's not all, I don't believe in it 100%, but the majority of the shit that they talk about is very true, and it's amazing just what a thought can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's so cool. So, yeah, man, I think there was one more thing I wanted to ask you. Oh, yeah, your logo. So your design of your logo, I dig it. That's like that kind of warrior thing. Is that something,
Thank you.
is that like something that you did yourself?
Yeah, well, I was basing it off of the St. George and the Dragon statue. I've always been amazed by my family heritage crest. Growing up, I was always told that we're related to St. George and the Dragon Slayer from England over there.
That's
There's a
so cool.
statue. There's a country over there. The statue is really, really cool. Really cool stuff. So I just wanted to base it off of that night, with the big sword kind of slaying the dragon, that whole vibe. And the shield kind of just nailed it for me. So
Yeah, it's pretty sweet, man. And it's awesome that you say that, because I know exactly what you're fucking talking about because of Epcot here at Disney. Over in in Italy, the pavilion there, they have it's a big pillar, and it has that statue, a sculpture of that on top of it. And it was something what's that?
Yeah.
For years and years and years, I'd never even like looked up to see that's what that was. And then I saw a picture on something, and I was like, how have I not seen that? So I went into the pavilion and turned around to look back at the thing, and it's spectacular to see that. So that's pretty badass knowing that's your heritage.
Yeah, it's amazing. It just feels cool to be able to speak that, which is really cool.
Yeah, it is. So that being said, man, if you ever want to come down here and visit me in Florida, blow some glass, we can take a trip over to Epcot and have a couple cocktails, and I can show you around there, and you can see that statue and take a picture in front of it.
That would be epic. That will happen sooner than later. Definitely planning on doing a lot of collabs this summer. Well, actually, this next few years is my main focus. I'm kind of feel like I'm stepping away a little bit from the trade shows, I still will be attending Glass Vegas this next year. Unfortunately, we'll be missing out on Glass Roots this year. But focusing on collaborating and coming and visiting everybody to do with our industry. So would love to come and hang out with you, man.
Yeah, it'd be killer.
That'd be epic.
Hell yeah. Well, if the timing works out in November, I think it is when the Grand Championships for the Tournament of Fire is going to be happening, and it's going to happen here.
Yes.
Down here, so we should make that happen. So
I can definitely make that happen. It will be happening down there, which is exciting. I've actually never been over to Florida, so I'm excited to be there.
Yeah, and November is ideal. Like November to end of March into April is like the perfect time to live. It's why we all live here, basically. Weather-wise.
Kick ass.
Yeah, it's perfect.
It's a good time to be there.
Yeah, it's like low 70s, clear blue skies, no humidity.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. It's a good time to go to the Disney parks and fuck off and drink around the world at Epcot kind of stuff.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll talk to Scott and Ryan and everybody, see if we can have like a little Tournament of Fire tour around the world at Epcot, get everybody together and go have a little fun down there before the actual tournament starts.
I mean, even if it was just for a few hours or then evening or something, that would be epic.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure a lot of us guys would be down.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Yeah, we'll talk about that down the road for sure.
Right.
For sure. But, yeah, man, so that being said, I think it'd be a good time for us to take a quick break and thank some sponsors, and then we'll come back and it'll be time for us to crash the kiln.
Awesome.
Segment of the Wise Guy Radio Show is brought to you by the Flow magazine. Since its inception, the focus of the Flow has been to provide a bond among members of the lampworking community. This has been accomplished by developing relationships with the finest artists and sharing their techniques with you through in-depth step-by-step tutorials. In every issue, you can enjoy great content with the hottest artists and cutting-edge techniques using the latest industry products. These features, along with the continuation of our Women in Glass edition, Glasscraft Emerging Artist Awards, inspiring gallery showcases, dynamic general interest articles, as well as health and safety information, make the Flow the leading international lampworking journal. And if you have not yet subscribed to the Flow, you can use the coupon code WISEGUY at checkout, and you can receive 10% off your annual subscription. So just go to theflowmagazine.com. That is theflowmagazine.com. All right, cool. Well, we are back. Quick break.
That's good.
And the Crash in the Kiln round consists of 7 questions, and they are 7 because I counted them finally after 4 years of doing this fucking show. I'm always like, I think there's 7 questions, but yes, 7 questions. And if you want to give me a 30 to 60-second answer, and you can also expound upon them if you'd like, as we always tend to do. First question I always like to ask is if there's any living glass artist that you have not yet worked with. Who is it, and why is that?
Any living glass artists that I have not worked with?
Yeah, that you want to. Yeah.
Well, my inspiration and one of my teachers, Darby Holmes, and Karsten Carlisle. I'm very excited. Hopefully this summer, I'm trying to get up there to spend some time to hang out with those guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, be some fun collabs.
Just do something.
Yeah.
Melt some glass with them. To be honest, it doesn't even have to be a collab with them. Just melt some glass with them.
Hell yeah.
Just be near those guys and feel the energy.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are your top 5 favorite colors in glass?
Ooh, that's a good one. So, definitely have to start out with blue caramel. Is one of my favorites for mushroom marbles and for in general in a lot of things. And then experimental green, Illuminati, and recently the pomegranate it was a ruby, but pomegranate's been really right there. And the 5th one, of course, is Disco Sparkle.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
That steel look is just amazing.
Yeah, it sure is. What is your worst injury in the studio?
Oh, goodness. Sticking my hand in the torch during an inside-out pipe. Whew. Yeah, where just like you're holding your hand up in the air, and then you like look down or something to grab something, and the torch just flashes across your knuckles.
Mm.
That's the worst one, where it's gotten 3 out of the 5 knuckles. Yeah, that one hurt.
Yeah, I did the same exact thing, dude. Except that my first line I laid down, it was a little bit chilly in the studio, and a breeze came by and just hit that first tack line I did and cracked a ring around that bitch. The fucking tube fell off, and the fucking point was still in my hand, and it just completely exposed me to the flame. Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
And instead of
Yeah.
my knuckles, it went across my nail, like my fingertips. So it was like across the top of my nail beds, you know. And yeah.
What's amazing is the nails will catch some of the flame.
Yeah.
Oh goodness.
Yeah. Torch burns are the worst too, because like they hurt a little bit right away, but they really, really hurt about 2 weeks later when all your nerves start to come back.
They sink in. It's just a sink-in burn for sure.
Yeah. Good way to put it, for sure. Yeah, no fun. Let's see. When you're in the shop, do you watch TV, listen to the radio, or do you do both?
I listen to the radio mostly. I've been listening to a lot of the just different, underground artists that speak meaning, has a story to tell. I definitely like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, no TV, just mostly music.
Watch some TV time to time. It's more music. It's better to get into the zone with music.
Yeah.
You get distracted with the TV.
Yeah, I think for me, which I think a lot, what I'm asking this question, if I find is that the artist that is like you're saying, like if they're doing production, they can throw a couple movies on and just crank the day away doing production. But when it comes to creating like one-offs or art in a sense, it's usually music of some sort.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in that same boat there.
And sometimes it's best to listen to music without voices.
Yep. Yeah, Carl Terminu actually recommended which I don't know the name of it now, but it was an African tribal Pandora station that he listens to.
Correct.
Just because of that.
That stuff that's amazing. Yeah, exactly. Just some ambient, rhythm that keeps you in an upbeat.
Yeah, like Beats
vibe.
Antique or something like that. So it's a fun Pandora channel.
Correct. Yeah,
it's good shit.
I'm all about that.
Hell yeah. You have any glass blowing themed tattoos?
Well, I don't have any tattoos, but I've got a brand. I've actually branded myself with glass.
Interesting.
Yeah,
on purpose?
On purpose, yeah. It was during the good old teenager days when I had that whole family business thing, the glass vibes. I was smart enough to make myself a GV brand. Branded onto my in between my pointer and my thumb.
My God, dude.
Yeah, it's still there.
I'm sure.
15 years later, it's still very visible. GV.
So crazy. What
it's good vibes. It means good vibes.
Yeah,
That's what it means.
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense, and it's cool that you're saying that because years and years ago I saw this Discovery show or whatever on Taboo Art, and then it was all about branding. People that would have like these branding parties, and they would make shapes out of metal, and they brand each other and stuff. And
oh, those are crazy. I actually seen that too.
Yeah, right. But it gave me the idea about the glass one. I was like, when you actually followed through and did it.
Totally though. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Actually, it worked really well.
I'm sure. I branded myself a lot, just not on purpose.
You just gotta exactly. You just gotta hold yourself through that pain, and it'll be okay. Oh goodness.
God, well, even like you're saying, like on that part of your hand, man, that's some sensitive shit. Like in the webbing
Yeah,
area.
maybe I should. I feel like I should. Yeah, I should. Yeah, in the webbed area.
Take a picture.
Post that one of these days.
Yeah,
I should.
Yeah, send me a picture for this because I'll put it in your show notes with because I need some pictures from you anyways. I would love to see that and share it.
Okay.
Hopefully, nobody else wants to do it. I mean, unless maybe they do. Unless we end up starting a new trend here.
No, it's actually, to be honest, a few years ago, I actually thought about creating a few different designs and doing them to myself because since it worked out so well and it's so prominent on my hand, I was like, It's actually kind of a cool idea.
Mhm.
You just got to get over that. You just got to get over the pain factor and dealing with the burn.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, if
And
anything, for me, it's part of the experience. So it's like, as an out of body type of thing.
that's true. Good point.
It's like getting tattoo. Like all the tattoo hours I've had, it gets to a meditative point where it doesn't hurt anymore. Until the artist is like, "Yeah, I think I need a cigarette." I'm like, "Dude, what are you fucking talking about?" You know?
You're like, finish.
Yeah,
I
Jesus.
need you to finish.
And that's not every tattoo artist. Only a couple of them, but not to
Right.
make a stigma that they all smoke. But
Thank goodness.
yeah, yeah, man. So cool. Yeah, interesting. It'd be interesting to see if anybody else out there has done that because you're the first person that I know that's followed through with it.
I'm curious. I've got two of them, which is funny. One on my ankle and one on my hand, just for the hell of it. I don't know why I had the second one. Oh wait. I had the other group of guys around me, so I did the second one. I was like, "Oh, you're gonna do it with me? Okay, I'll do it again."
Did they all do it too?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was the third, so it was two other dudes doing it with me. So yeah, they have them.
Awesome. It's like everybody's getting that is going to Melt. They're all getting the Melt logo for a tattoo to kind of signify that whole time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. So last question I'd like to ask is your top 5 favorite tools that you use, and that does not include your glasses, torch, kiln, like none of the major things, but like your basic general tools.
Oh wow. Well, let's see here. I've got six reamers or tools. Two different bowl presses. One octagon reamer and a 1-inch reamer, and those are like all the tools I have. And those are the only tools I use besides my tweezers and my grippers. I do recently picked up like about 3-4 years ago. I picked up a pair of cabling scissors.
Okay.
So instead of using the traditional metal, stainless steel scissors that we all buy for glass, I picked up their serrated edge for cabling, cutting cables. And these things are amazing for glass. So I do use those pretty often, actually.
Interesting.
For cutting glass.
That's smart. Yeah. Early on when I was trying to do the same, like cut glass, and I needed to, I went out and got this kind of, I think they might have been more like for tin, but basically the same kind of idea. Just like they look like regular scissors, but they had that heavy serrated edge to them. They're a little thicker metal too. And
yeah, you'd be blown away if you had a pair of these in your hand. They're about $20 a set, but they're amazing scissors. They're super sharp. They're made to cut through like heavy duty, extension cords or cable, like thick cable. So it can cut through glass pretty effortless.
Heck yeah! I'll have to go find those on Amazon somewhere and have them in the show notes so people can see.
They're
them.
amazing.
Yeah, hell yeah.
They're amazing.
Hell yeah, man. Well, that's the Crash and the Killing round there. Did great.
Nice.
Nice and quick. Yeah. So before we let you go here, and again, if you want to hang on till after my little outro, we'll say goodbye here. But before we let you go, if you want to give us a little parting piece of advice, and then where we can find you out there in the world of cyberspace.
It's always good to stick in your own lane and be inspired by the things around you. You can find me on Instagram or Facebook. St. George Glass, or St. George is ST period GEORGE. So St. George period.
And that's your Instagram one?
That's my Instagram.
Okay.
My first name is Josh. Josh St. George but I go by St. George through this industry.
Hell yeah. Well, it's a cool name, man. Whether it's fake or real, even though it's real, it's cool.
It is real.
It's 100%. A cool name. Yeah, it's awesome. Hell yeah, dude. Well, it's been fun chit chatting with you and talking family and the whole dynamic there. Likewise. And everything else, man. It's definitely badass. And the best of luck to you here in the final round of the Grand Championships for this year's Tournament of Fire too.
Ooh-wee. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah, the competition's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. That's what I'm most excited about, is exposing ourselves to the world and showing the competitions. This is what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. Well, hell yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this chit-chat with Josh St. George, and you can find him again on all the social feeds at St. George, and we'll I'll have all the links in the show notes for you, and also his list of his top 5 favorite tools and stuff, so you can see if you want to go get any of those yourself, including them scissors. They sound like they're pretty badass, and I'll have a little Amazon link on there. I'm sure I can find them on there. But until next time, make sure y'all are staying hydrated out there. It's summertime. I know we're all sweating our balls off, and the guys and gals alone, we're all sweating our balls off.
Oh yeah,
it's hot
absolutely.
shit. So keep hydrated and all that good stuff, and we'll talk to you on the next episode of the Wise Guy Radio Show. You guys take it easy. Peace.